867, September 24th, 27-year-old Byzantine Emperor Michael III is going to have his hands chopped off and then a sword thrust into his heart. Basil was with a number of his male relatives plus other accomplices when he entered Michael III's apartment. The locks had been tampered with. No guard had been placed. Michael's end was grisly. A man named John of Chaldea killed Byzantine Emperor Michael III. 27-year-old Byzantine Emperor Michael III is going to get killed by John of Chaldea upon the orders of Basil. They cut off both the emperor's hands with the sword and then finished him off with a thrust to the heart. Byzantine Emperor Michael III shouldn't have trusted Basil, nor John of Chaldea, and he should have had stronger locks on his doors. Is that you, Is that you, John of Chaldea? Can you give me some tea? Oh, John of Chaldea. Coming into my bedchambers in the middle of the night. Thank you. Can you give me some tea? Rurik is going to die 879. He gives the realm to Oleg. Oleg must protect Igor, Rurik's son and future king. So Igor is just a toddler. Rurik dies 879. Who knows why he dies? Probably for the fuck of it. 881, the Tyvertsy Ukrainians fight against Askold and Dur Swedish Vikings. I think Askold and Dur are the Swedish Vikings. So when Oleg kills Askold and Dur, he was the king, and so that expanded his domain, and then it becomes the Keevan Rus, because then you could just say, look at this Oleg. Oleg ruled over this land for, 20 years or some shit. But he did it by killing the Swedish Vikings that were running Kiev at the time. Or the Slavs, Askold and Dur, either way. He stole Kiev. He didn't find Kiev. The Kievan Rus wasn't fucking founded. They stole other people's shit, and then they just named it some different shit. 882, King Oleg kills Askold and Dur, begins the Kievan Rus. So the Tyvertsy Ukrainians were fighting against Askold and Dur, and I think it was the Swedish Vikings. So it was like King Oleg said, well, I'll save you, Tyvertsy. Instead of having Askold and Dur oppress you, I'm going to start oppressing you all. How about that? Does that sound good for you, Tyvertsy? Nah, Tyvertsy. Askold and Dur, them motherfuckers are oppressing you. Now I'm going to kill them, and then I'll oppress you. And I'm going to call it the Kievan Rus. So, the Kievan Rus. Doesn't that sound cool? 885, Tyvertsy Ukrainians fought against Oleg of Novgorod. Oh, shit. So that didn't last long. They did not like that. The answer is no. The Tyvertsy Ukrainians did not want the Swedish Vikings to conquer them. 907, Swedish Viking King Oleg's campaign to Constantinople. The Tyvertsy are on Oleg's side. So damn, Tyvertsy, fucking pick a lane, motherfuckers. You're against the goddamn Novgorodians. You're for the Novgorodians. Or actually, the Novgorodians are the Slovenes. So you're for the damn Vikings. You're against the Vikings. Which is it? Do you want the Vikings to run over you? The beginning of the story is and then the Slavs wanted us to rule over them. So they asked us, and then we said yes, and then we got in our ships and sailed. Like the Slavs wrote a fucking letter to the goddamn Swedish Vikings saying, hey, guy, can you come back over here, run shit? Because he was running shit and then left, and then they were begging for him to come back. Yeah, probably one motherfucking guy was begging. The one person that had benefited begged for them to come back. Oleg on the campaign to so is this are we attacking Constantinople 907 AD? He takes everybody. He takes the Polyanas, he takes the Polans, he takes the Drevlians, he takes the Marias, he takes the Radmidicis, the Radimicis, the Tyvertsis, the Dubliis, the Vitiacis, the Viaticis, the Croatians, the Varangians, the Varyags, the Slovens, the Chuddies, the Kriviches, Drevlians, Radimicis, Tyvertsis, Dulibis, Croatians, Viati, Meches, Polyanes, Severians. So, there's your Slavs. There's your Slavic tribes. There's your native Ukrainians. Your Radomiches, your Drevlians, your Polyanas, Severians, Slovenes, Vidiaches, Croatians. These are your native Slavs. So Oleg and the Varangians are a bunch of fucking Swedish Vikings trying to conquer and take you over. And then they did take you over and then made you pay taxes and then used you as cannon fodder to attack the Byzantine Empire. June 941, the Rus staged a naval ambush on Byzantine forces, making up for their smaller numbers with small maneuverable boats. These boats were ill-equipped for the transportation of large quantities of treasure, suggesting that looting was not the goal. The raid was led, according to the primary chronicle, by a king named Igor. 944, Igor runs an expedition. The Tyvertsy Ukrainians are on Igor's side. 944. The Treaty of 944 said that all ships approaching Byzantium must be preceded by a letter from the Rurikid prince stating that the number of ships and assuring their peaceful intent. This not only indicates fear of another surprise attack, but an increased Keevan presence in the Black Sea. 945 AD, Igor is ripped in two by the Drevlians when they tied his legs to two bent over birch trees and then cut the rope, fucking ripped his legs in half, ripped his body in half, killing him probably pretty quickly after that. To the north of the Drevlians, you had the Dragoviches. Their name is derived from the Slavic drevo or derevo, meaning wood or tree, because they lived in the forest. The Drevlians lived in the forest and the Polans lived in the fields. Their name may be rendered, the dwellers in the forest mentioned that those Slavs who settled in open fields had been called Polyani, after the Slavic pol, meaning field. Pol. They're the Poles, either the Polacks or the Poles. The Kievs are the Poles. King Kiev is the Pole. King Kiev is a Polak. Poliani. These are members of the Polotsk. Those in the forest, the Drevlianis. Those in the open fields, Polyanis. The Poles. The Polacks. The Polyanas. 945 to 972, the reign of Slavatoslav I, King Prince of Keevan Rus. The King Prince. Keevan rulers adopted Slavic religion and names, but their Druzhina still consisted primarily of Scandinavians. So the court, so their cabinet, their advisors, their, people, the aristocrats, the people that they were ruling for. Sviatoslav's military conquests are astonishing. He dealt lethal blows to two of his strongest neighbors, Khazaria and the Bulgarian Empire, which collapsed soon after his raids. So, Sviatoslav sounds like a badass. 960, Keevan Rus attacked Byzantium in 960 AD. They just keep attacking Byzantium. It's, Byzantium is like one of the premier fucking empires. It's going to last for 1,000 years. They could learn from Byzantium instead of just attacking them all the goddamn time. Pilgrims of the Rus have been making the journey from Kiev to Constantinople for many years. They've been trading peacefully. That's what happens, though. You fucking trade with these motherfuckers. You try to... Constantine Porphyrogenitus, the emperor of the Byzantine Empire, believed that this gave them significant info about the arduous parts of the journey where the travelers were most at risk, as would be pertinent for an invasion. This route took travelers through the domain of the Pechenegs, journeying mostly by river. 965 to 69, the Kievan Rus rulers, Sviatoslav I of Kiev, as well as his allies, conquered the capital Atil, A-T-I-L, and ended Khazaria's independence. 982, Leif Eriksson's Eric the Red followed in grandfather Torvald's footsteps in being exiled for murder. 2. 982 CE, he moves to Greenland. This is Leif Erikson, the founder of America. Eric the Red, his father, moves to Greenland in 982 CE. Vladimir converts to Christianity in 988 CE AD and saves the entire world. 1000 AD, Leif Erikson's Vikings, Norwegian, discovers America. 1019 in Sigurd of Sweden marries Yaroslav of Novgorod. Yaroslav the Wise, I think the Rurik Dynasty. The terms of their marriage settlement is that Yaroslav ceded Ladoga to his wife, Ingigerd, who appointed her father's cousin, the Swedish Earl Ragnavold Ulfsson, to rule the town. Ladoga Staria is the first place Rurik took over in 862 AD. And that's confirmed by, not just the chronicles and the archaeological evidence, but it suggests that Ladoga gradually evolved into a primarily Varangian settlement. At least 2 Swedish kings spent their youths in Ladoga, Stenkil and Ingi the First. So, Jesus Christ, if these Keevan Rus are the father of the fucking Rus, then that means Ladoga Staria and Novgorod are the father, towns and cities. And then Murom, the town of Murom, this is the father of the Rus. This is where the Keevan Rus, all these Swedish Vikings, prince and princesses and kings and queens came from. 1030, Chud. In 1030, Prince Yaroslav the Wise of Kiev won a military campaign against the Chuds, established a fort in Uriv, present-day Tartu, in southeastern Estonia, along with Kriviches, Veps, Ilmin, Savs, and Vikings. The border lake between Estonia and Russia, still called the Chudskoye Chud Lake in Russian. Chud's language is similar to the Veps language. Again, the Ilmin Slavs are the Slovenes. These are the Novgorod Slavs, the Vikings. Those are the conquerors. The Veps, who are the Veps, the Kriviches. These are the Eastern Slavs that the Vikings are going to conquer. 1054, the Rurik Dynasty underwent a major schism after the death of Yaroslav the Wise. In 1054 AD, dividing into 3 branches. So the Keevan Rus is going to disintegrate, because they can't get their shit together. The fucking king dies, and now, the family can't get their shit together. 1060 to 66, Stenkil is the king of Sweden. Stenkil. He came out of Ladoga. You had Yaroslav the Wise, who, took Novgorod, but he gave Ingigerd, Ingigerd, Ingigerd. He gave Ingigerd Ladoga Staria, the city of Ladoga, which had a fortress in Ladoga. There was a fortress in Ladoga. So she got she got a city, she got a town of her own. And they went ahead and raised Swedish kings in Ladoga. Stenkil is going to run Sweden for 6 years, 1060 to 1066. In 1115 AD, Saint Kuksha of the Kiev Caves was a missionary who converted many Viatici to Christianity, but then he was beheaded on August 27th, 1115. So he was a missionary. The Viatici, he got a lot of them to convert to Christianity, but I guess that's why he's a saint, right? Saint Kuksha. But yeah, the Viachi were also democratic. There were no kings or queens. There was no social structure, no hierarchy. In their they believed in self-government too. So the Viatici, the believers of democracy, went ahead and beheaded Saint Kuksha of the Kiev Caves. 1240, the Mongolians are going to conquer the Keevan Rus and I think Moscow and everybody else, and make the Keevan Rus pay tribute to them for permission to rule. All right, I'll let you rule, but you got to pay me $4 billion. Okay, massa. 1492, 530 years ago, Chris Columbus lands on San Salvador in the Caribbean in 1492. 1492. 530 years ago. 1581, Ivan V is killed by Ivan IV. 1584, Fyodor I Ivanovich takes the throne after Ivan the Terrible, Ivan IV, dies. Fyodor I was a pious but lethargic king. 1598, Fyodor the Bell Ringer dies, and the house of Rurik holds the throne no more. 1598. So that's how long the Rurik dynasty went, from 862 to 1598. So how many years is that? 700, 800? I mean, for 800 years, the Rurik dynasty lasted. The Keevan Rus only lasted for 40 years. So the Rurik dynasty, persevered on. You had the War of Austrian Succession. Charles VI had one boy, but he died in infancy. Then he had three girls. Maria Theresa was the eldest, and that was the problem back in that day. She wasn't allowed, or they were going to basically threaten when King Charles VI dies. He's the king of Austria. His eldest is Maria Theresa. He got permission. He did everything that he was supposed to do, but when he died, they wanted to test Maria Theresa out. They wanted to test her out, see her mettle, see how strong she was, and they're like, oh, she can't run shit. And that's the War of Austrian Succession. So that's kind of fucked up, just basically because Charles VI didn't have a boy that lived. And a lot of times you have a lot of these damn fights and battles happen because the succession, who gets the power afterwards wasn't clear. And so these, so this is, that's just like Fyodor the Bell Ringer. He had a wife, but they just didn't bear any children. The Dmitri, the 8-year-old or 9-year-old Dmitri, was probably killed by Ivan V's fucking advisor guy, Boris, whoever, Godunov. And that's it. That's it. That's the end of the Keevan Rus and the Rurik dynasty.